I want to go back just a minute to 1979 and just share a moment, parenthetical point about the malaise in the world. The Soviet Union was on the march. They were subsidizing surrogates in Africa, Latin America, and South Asia. NATO was a mess. It was coming apart at the seams. The Soviets were deploying SS-17s, 18s, 19s, and 21s, tactical nuclear weapons against every capital of Europe. Europe did not want to deploy the Pershing II missile. Remember, Ed? They were going wobbly. NATO was falling apart. The world was, I don't want to say falling apart, because I'm not that pessimistic, but there was an erosion of the élan vital of the Western belief. The Churchill wing of Europe had been defunct. And something happened in 1978. Pope John Paul came to office in the Vatican as the Pope. Margaret Thatcher came to office in 1979, Ronald Reagan in 1980. Stop and think tonight when you go to bed. Those 3 years, those three men, that holy trio, Time magazine called them, of Pope John Paul, three men, Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher, Reagan's right arm, if you will, and Reagan. Now, Reagan said at Notre Dame in 1981, one of the great speeches of all time, he said, the West will not contain communism. The West will transcend communism. This is 1981. It was a few weeks after he'd been shot, and he's given a speech about the West will not contain communism. We will transcend communism. We will not denounce it. We will dismiss it as a sad and bizarre chapter of history whose last pages are now being written. Raise your hands if you could have said that about the Soviet Union in 1981. That was perspicacious. That was visionary. That was rallying the West, not unlike what Churchill did in May of 1940, just before the Blitzkrieg, in the darkest days of the British Empire. And Churchill gave that great speech on the BBC, and he said, these are not dark days. I'm thinking about leadership here. How does a leader rally his people? How does a mother rally a family? How does a father rally his family? How does an entrepreneur rally a cause? With optimism. And I think Ronald Reagan's greatest contribution to politics, among all the things that he did, was to rally that inner spirit. Again, that élan vital is so important to a people, to a football team, to a business, to a family. And Churchill gave that great speech. These are not dark days. These are great days. These are the greatest days our nation has ever known. We should thank God tonight, Churchill said, that we're alive so as to make a contribution to the future freedom of all mankind. You see, he gave them a higher vision. He gave them a higher purpose. He called out that inner sense of being that wants us to give bigger than ourselves, to rise above an obstacle. It was Lincoln at Gettysburg. It was Churchill in 1940. And it was Ronald Reagan giving that speech at Notre Dame.